The NHS in England on a war footing in the fight against Omicron. A record number of staff are off sick with the virus or isolating, and another record broken today too, a surge in COVID cases.
The staff are exhausted and do want a bit of a break, but I don't think we're going to get it. It's relentless and there's no pause.
Well, Scotland's government tightens restrictions further, shutting nightclubs for 3 weeks after Boxing Day. Also tonight. The father of 2 sets of twins who died in a house fire tells ITV News of his unimaginable loss.
I'll never stop remembering them. I still see them running around my house as if they're still there. I still hear them saying, "Daddy, I love you."
Why our energy bills could surge in spring, and
we've seen so many challenges. We've lost our loved ones. We've seen our frontline workers under immense pressure.
Kate's Christmas message. She says how kindness brought comfort in these tough times.
This is the ITV Evening News with Lucrezia Millarini.
Good evening. The scale of the coronavirus crisis facing England's NHS was underlined further today with figures showing staff absences due to COVID shot up by more than 50% in a week. It comes as medics are needed more than ever to battle a huge surge in Omicron infections. Well, cases have hit a new high, but the first government data suggests the variant causes fewer hospitalisations. Even so, NHS England's medical director says the service is on a war footing, having to tackle COVID and give millions of booster jabs. It came as new coronavirus infections reached almost 120,000 cases, the highest on record. It's a rise of 54% in a week. There was some more positive news, though, with the UK's Health Security Agency saying Omicron patients may be 50 to 70% less likely to need hospital treatment than the Delta variant. Here's our political correspondent, Libby Vina.
A Christmas rush of a different kind. Thousands turning up for their boosters as the numbers infected with COVID soar.
Just like to relax your arm down.
For now, the NHS is coping, but it's not clear for how much longer. One consultant working on the front line says it's tough to keep going.
The staff are exhausted and do want a bit of a break, but I don't think we're going to get it. I often get called in at all hours to say, can you please cover? Can you come in even if it's for an hour or two? So we're putting out fires, literally plugging gaps as we can on a day-to-day basis. It's relentless and there's no pause.
Health bosses are worried, one saying today the NHS is on a war footing and staff are taking the fight to Omicron, all while seeing a worrying high and rising increase in absence due to COVID. In hospitals, it means routine operations and some outpatient appointments are already being cancelled, adding to the backlog. The number of NHS hospital staff in England who were absent for COVID reasons rose to almost 19,000 in the latest figures. That's a 54% increase in a week.
What you've got in the NHS at the moment is something that's incredibly difficult. You've got a very, very busy non-COVID care, urgent and emergency care pathway, getting through those care backlogs, extending the booster vaccination campaign, growing numbers of COVID patients, but not exponential growth. But at the same time, we've actually got significant numbers of staff absences. It really is very, very pressured inside the NHS at the moment.
Staff absences were affecting transport too today. Many trains cancelled, but the message from the government is that Christmas itself won't be.
People should enjoy their Christmases with their families and friends. Of course, remain cautious, and we will keep the situation under review. We're learning more all the time, as we have done from this new data, and we will keep analysing that data. And if we need to do anything more, we will, but nothing more is going to happen before Christmas.
New restrictions come into force in Wales on Boxing Day and soon afterwards in Scotland. The chances are that if cases continue to rise, some new measures may also be needed in England to protect the NHS.
So, Libby, what will this mean for that crucial decision the government needs to take about any further restrictions in England?
Yes, well, family reunions allowed this year, but everyone being discouraged from having too much festive fun. A glimmer of hope tonight, though, from the UK Health Security Agency, suggesting that Omicron is much less dangerous than previous variants of COVID. That said, it has to be set against these astonishing figures we've seen today for the case numbers, nearly 120,000. You don't have to be a maths genius to work out that you only need a few people to be badly affected to see hospital numbers going up, and that could see the NHS overwhelmed pretty soon in the new year. One other word of caution from the Health Security Agency, a suggestion that boosters may only last for perhaps 10 weeks or so. And a primary care professor that I was speaking to earlier suggested to me that it would be highly likely that we would all need a fourth booster in the spring.
All right, Libby Vina in Westminster, thank you. Well, in the face of surging cases, Scotland's government announced it's imposing further restrictions, closing all nightclubs for 3 weeks from the 27th of December. It follows measures to limit crowds at large events and bring back social distancing in pubs and restaurants. And as our Scotland correspondent Peter Smith reports, it's a bitter blow to businesses which have only been allowed to reopen since the summer.
In Scotland, the post-Christmas restrictions are piling up. Now nightclubs have been told they must shut down for at least 3 weeks from the day after Boxing Day in efforts to slow down the spread of coronavirus.
Do you think this is proportionate when you look at the threat from Omicron?
I'm not sure in relation to that. One of the things that does strike me is the fact that house parties and things will go on over the festive season and there won't be lateral flow tests, and that, you know, we're a very safe environment because we are testing it, and that won't happen in houses.
Scotland's new restrictions already forced Edinburgh to cancel its world-famous Hogmanay street party and led to the shutdown of top-flight football. But in light of new evidence of Omicron being less severe, Nicola Sturgeon was today challenged to loosen the reins.
Why do people who have tested negative for COVID have to remain in isolation for 10 days? This level of caution belonged before we had the data from this new study announced last night.
These studies are also early data, as the authors of them are pointing out, and when even the authors are saying don't get carried away yet with what these studies are telling you, then I think we should listen.
These scenes last night will worry the Scottish Government. Just before football fans are locked out, there were protests against restrictions and even chants against the booster. Patience is wearing thin just as more young people are being asked to get vaccinated.
I'm not getting it for my own health, really. I'm just getting it because you need to.
Access things.
Yeah, exactly.
You're being asked to get your booster, but those things are still being taken away from you.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reality.
This generation needs a bit more credit as well, because all these things that people keep it running. So I work in a supermarket, you work in a hotel, things like that. That's us that's doing that.
This is about protecting Scotland's NHS, but there is no promise it will end after 3 weeks. Only hope. And when even Santa's left deflated, hope can be hard to hold on to. Peter Smith, ITV News, Glasgow.
A mother of 4 from Cornwall died after she was crushed trying to jump-start her own car, an inquest has heard. Kerry-Ann Bowers was pushing the car to try and start it in June this year, but then got dragged along as it began to roll down a hill. The 29-year-old was then caught between the open door and the vehicle when it rolled into a hedge, while her children were in the back seats. The father of 2 sets of young twins who tragically died in a house fire has told ITV News his boys will always be in his heart. Dalton Hoth said that the presents he was going to give them for Christmas are still underneath his tree. The boys, aged 4 and 3, died a week ago in a house in South London. Well, tonight balloons will be released in their memory by their family and the local community. And as Sedgell Carrier reports, their father says seeing how well they were loved helps him cope.
They were lovely, they were full of energy, they was always holding each other's hands. They used to just enjoy life so much. They were just perfect.
Dalton Hoth lost all 4 of his sons when their home caught fire. 2 sets of twin brothers, Kyson and Bryson aged 4, Leighton and Logan just 3. Their dad takes some comfort from the many tributes and messages left in their memory. Brothers who were killed just 10 days before Christmas.
I don't even really want to call it Christmas anymore. I just want to call it the 25th of December. And I've got Christmas presents sat under the tree for them, trainers and clothes. I got them some like superhero figures. I feel like I should donate them maybe to a hospital or a charity so that at least some children somewhere can get to use them, and that'll make my sons proud.
4 little boys who firefighters said were found alone in the burning house in Sutton, southwest London, when they went in to tackle the fire. They managed to pull the brothers out and tried desperately to save them, but couldn't. A 27-year-old woman arrested on suspicion of child neglect has been bailed under investigation.
I was frantic. I called my father and I just got him to come and get me and drive me straight away to where it was. And we just waited patiently, watching all these firefighters fight relentlessly to try and save our sons.
If they could hear you now, what would you like to say to all 4 of them?
I'd just like to tell them that I'm sorry that they're not here with us no more, but that I love them and I'll never stop loving them, and they will always be in my heart. And I'm just happy that they have each other to hold and they're not alone. I still see them running around my house as if they're still there. I still hear them saying, "Daddy, I love you," and thank you for even the smallest things like a packet of crisps. They were so caring, so I'll just keep doing things week by week to celebrate and remember my sons.
For Dalton, Christmas and life will never be the same again. Sejal Karia, ITV News, Southwest London.
Still to come on the ITV Evening News. The life-changing treatment for children living with a peanut allergy on the NHS. Plus, Kate's Christmas tribute to the heroes who have inspired us all. Those stories and more after the break. Welcome back. Children who have an allergy to peanuts can now access a life-changing new treatment through NHS England. It works by giving patients small doses of peanut protein and gradually building up their tolerance. It means that even if they accidentally consume peanuts, they're much less likely to end up in hospital or worse. Ben Chapman heard from the families already benefiting.
How many peanuts have you eaten today?
I ate 7 real peanuts today.
Not long ago, that would have been enough to send Emily Pratt into anaphylactic shock, but not anymore.
Yay!
Now, this 9-year-old can enjoy food her mother could never risk before, like Advent calendar chocolate, after a successful clinical trial to treat her life-threatening peanut allergy.
Now I go to school and I don't have to worry when I'm having lunch or when people bring in treats for their birthday.
We were always trying to be about 20 minutes from a hospital at any point, and now she doesn't have that. Yeah, it's proper freedom. No limits now. It's wonderful.
The treatment that Emily trialled will now be available on the NHS in England. The medicine, called Palforzia, gives children tiny amounts of peanut protein to build up their body's tolerance. 1 in 50 children in the UK has a peanut allergy. That's about 240,000 young people. By the end of the trial, 6 out of 10 who'd been allergic were able to tolerate the equivalent of eating 3 peanuts.
This is not a cure, it's a treatment. You stay on this product, and it just means that if children were to accidentally eat peanut, they would not have a reaction if it was a low amount of peanut. And were they to have a reaction, we've shown this in studies, severity reduces over time.
These are my EpiPens that I have to take out anywhere I go.
It could now transform the futures of children like Aidan and his parents, who won't have to live in fear of the slightest trace of peanut.
It just feels like it's just opened so many doors and closed so many doors of worry as well, and so many more options to us. You know, we can go on holiday, not have to worry about, just not worrying about what we can eat.
Up to 600 children next year alone could now begin to live their lives like Emily. The best Christmas present they could hope for. Ben Chapman, ITV News.
The funeral of 12-year-old Ava White, who died after being stabbed in Liverpool last month, has taken place today. Hundreds of people filled the city's Metropolitan Cathedral for the service, led by the Archbishop of Liverpool. He said Ava didn't fear anything and was loved by so many people. A 14-year-old boy has been charged with her murder. Electricity and gas bills could rise by 50% next spring. The trade body of the UK's energy industry warned today. Energy UK is calling on the government to cut taxes such as VAT and green energy levies to help consumers. Well, our correspondent Rachel Younger is here. Rachel, 50% rise, that's going to hurt a lot of people.
Yeah, in a nutshell, it will. There are already estimated to be 4.5 million households in the UK who are struggling to pay their energy bills. But if rises of this level come in, then households with incomes around the £25,000 mark will find that they too will see so much of their incoming, such a high proportion of that, going into paying off their gas and electricity bills, that they'll be in fuel poverty, which essentially means facing really tough decisions on what to cut back on in order to pay gas and electricity bills. Now, how have we got here? What's going on? The energy companies are reeling, essentially, from record wholesale gas price increases across Europe. And here in the UK, we're particularly vulnerable to that. And that's because so much of our fuel is reliant or comes from imports. And that's a problem. We are protected to a degree, many of us, by something called the energy price cap. But that is already set at a whopping £1,277. So it's pretty costly anyway. And that will be looked at again in April. At the moment, it protects companies passing on these price rises to customers. But that's when the energy sector is warning that huge price rises are inevitable, and they're calling on the government to help.
We think that the price rise will be 45 to 50%, which reflects the sheer costs of buying gas on the market. A fifth of the bill is about government policy costs, things like VAT and other things that government can control. We want to see them put in place support for vulnerable people and support on bills in general. We want Treasury to act now.
So what's government had to say?
Well, the Treasury spokesman has said to us today that this winter price cap will continue to protect millions of customers across that season, adding we continue to support those most in need through our 500 million household support fund, the Warm House discount and winter fuel payments. And I think it is really worth saying that if you are in trouble, it is always worth contacting your energy provider because there is often help available. But if these price rises come in, there's going to be an awful lot more people in desperate need of that help.
All right, Rachel, thank you. Now, one of the country's most successful ever bands, Coldplay, have announced they'll stop making music in 2025. The group met at university in the 90s and went on to release 9 albums, each of them topping the charts. So in total, they've sold over 100 million copies worldwide. Today, frontman Chris Martin said their final album would come out in 2025, and after that, the group will focus on touring. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have released the first photo of their baby daughter, Lilibet. She features on the family's Christmas card along with her brother Archie. The first time a photo of him has been shared publicly in 2 years. Well, the picture was taken at the couple's home in California this summer. Meanwhile, the Queen is to host Prince Charles and Camilla on Christmas Day, her first since the death of the Duke of Edinburgh. Usually the Queen stays at the Sandringham estate in Norfolk, but this year she'll remain at Windsor Castle as a precaution against COVID. Finally, we stay with the royal Christmas theme and the special community carol concert, which airs on ITV tomorrow night. It's hosted by the Duchess of Cambridge at Westminster Abbey and features Ellie Goulding, Leona Lewis and some very special guests. Well, Kate said she hoped the concert would show how much we need each other after tough times and how important it is to show kindness and love, as our royal editor Chris Shipp reports.
Oh, and have yourself
Westminster Abbey was packed when Ellie Goulding, among others, performed for Kate's community carol concert. The Duchess of Cambridge said it was for those who'd gone above and beyond during the pandemic, as well as those, young and old, who'd overcome their own personal challenges. The concert will be shown on ITV tomorrow night, and Kate told the programme why she did it.
We've been through such a bleak time. We've seen so many challenges. We've lost our loved ones. We've been more emotionally and socially distanced and isolated from each other. But I suppose through that separation, we've also realised how much we need each other and how acts of kindness and love can really bring us comfort and relief.
The guest list at the Abbey included little Mila Snedden, whose battle with leukemia has touched Kate's heart.
So tell me what you did when you went down to London and you met someone called Kate. What happened?
Well, I was doing a prayer to God and I met the Duchess of Cambridge.
Again? I mean, you and her must be best friends now.
Yep.
Not many 6-year-olds can say that.
Daddy, Daddy, Daddy!
We first brought you Mila's story in the 2020 lockdown when, in the middle of chemotherapy, Mila was separated from her dad for 2 months to keep her safe. The photo her mum took at the kitchen window was spotted by the Duchess. And last spring, the real-life princess, as Mila called Kate, arranged a meeting.
It's so nice to meet you in person. I love your dress.
It's been a long road for the Snedden family, and Mila only got out of hospital again this morning.
I was speaking to Prince William, who had said that he had felt that Catherine and Mila had such a special bond. So, you know, that's not something that you hear every day.
Christmas won't be quite as normal as we hoped, but here at least there were Christmas carols for those who have been through so much. Chris Ship, ITV News.
And you can watch Royal Carols together at Christmas tomorrow night at 7:30. And that is it for now. Julie's here at the slightly later time of 10:15, but from me and all of the team, bye-bye.